Welcome, my dear friends, brothers and sisters. Today, as we once again meet together to discuss, share of all that happened throughout the last week of the Synodal Assembly. And today we have once again Fr Vimal Terumana, a Redemptorist, a non-episcopal voting member of the Synod. He is also a professor of moral theology, interestingly with 30 long years of teaching experience in different universities and seminaries in Sri Lanka and in Rome. We continue to dialogue on the theme for a synodal church, that is communion, participation and mission. First of all, Father, welcome and
thank you.
Thank you for being with us once again.
Thanks. You're welcome.
First of all, could you brief us with a summary of the third week on the Synodal Assembly?
Yes. During the week, we did a lot of things. This week, we were quite busy, Sanjay. First of all, on Monday, we had to finish the third module that was about the pathways, about which we discussed last time, but we had to finish it on Monday. And on Tuesday onwards, for 3.5 days, we were discussing about the fourth part, not part, we call it module, the fourth module, that is to do with places. That's how the week went. But I must insist, because this is very important, that's my personal experience of this synod, prayer. The prayer life was so diffused into this entire week. Not that we didn't have prayer earlier, but this week too. And Mother Maria Ignazia, the other fellow preacher of Cardinal-elect Timothy Radcliffe, he didn't preach this time, but Mother Maria Ignazia gave a very good conference also that Sunday. Then Sanjay, in addition to that, there were theological inputs. One by Professor Jill Routhier on local church, very good it was. And also another by an Eastern Church canonist, well-known canonist, he teaches here at the Oriental College. He is Pietro Zabo. He spoke about Oriental churches. I thought these theological inputs for the participants were very good. Last but not least, Friday evening, that is the afternoon session, we didn't enter the Synod Hall. Instead, we were given the opportunity to dialogue with, you remember the 10 groups. Remember you first asked me the very first time, 10 themes were assigned. So we were allowed to meet those groups according to our choice and have a dialogue with them. And I must say that was very good. So the week went that way.
Oh, well, it was since third week and also nearing to end, so it will be a really fruitful discussions along the way as we go.
It looks shaping out to be very good, shaping out to be. In fact, if I forget to say at the end, this coming week is very decisive. So please remember us in your prayers.
Yeah, as you reflected mostly on the theme of places during this week that you had, what are some of the fundamental points that arise from the synodal discussions?
Yeah, first of all, when we say, remember Sanjay, we had this Instrumentum Laboris divided into 4 modules, no? First we discussed foundations, then we discussed about the relations, pathways, and now about places. I was a bit confused at the beginning. Places? What is places? But then the introduction for places, it gives one succinct line. It says, by places we mean the church that is placed in different contexts. Church in India, church in Sri Lanka, church in Papua New Guinea, church in Poland. So the places means the context in which the church is placed. But what was your question? You asked about places. So that's the
So about
I forgot the question, but I wanted to explain the
some
place.
of the fundamental points that arise when you talk about the theme of the places.
Yes, the most fundamental thing is the famous question that has been debated since the Second Vatican Council, the local church and the universal church. I will talk about it later when you ask further questions, because many people think that church is only the universal church. But show me the church that is universal. Where? Sanjay, you belong to the church in India. To be precise, church in your northern area, let's say,
Yes.
wherever the area is. I belong to the church in Kandy, Sri Lanka. Gregor might belong to the church in Poland. So it is these churches in communion that form the universal church. It's rather, I won't say, I will be too simplistic to say it's a mental idea. It's not just mental. There is a thing called universal church, but it's mostly to do with local church. Because if someone asked me, show me the church, and we said from the beginning, church is people of God. This people of God gathered here, in this place, here and now. So that's one, universal local church. Another one was unity and diversity. So that was very much talked about. Another thing was about the parish. When you talk about places, what is parish? We'll talk about it later probably, next item as the next item. Then religious movements like charismatic movement in a parish. What are the other movements? Comunio et Liberazione. Groups, there are so many. Focolare. No, there are so many groups.
Legion of Mary.
Legion of Mary. These are associations. Are they not places? Or are they parallel places? That was discussed. But I thought another important thing discussed was, which is up to you people who are into digital culture, about the digital culture. Most of our youth today are not in the parish boundary probably. They are in the digital boundaries. And we spoke also about artificial intelligence, but mostly debated issue was, in fact, I made my personal intervention also in the plenary. Most debated issue was the teaching authority, the doctrinal authority which a local church would have. Do they have the teaching authority, or should they only listen to Rome and just repeat what Rome says? Of course, it's not a question of damaging our communion with Rome. But the issues in your area may be very different from issues in other areas. If you want, we can discuss it at the end. So since you asked, these are the things that we discussed during the week. Quite interesting things.
When you shed light on the local and universal church, when you talked about, today the nature of the parishes defined very much widely, see. So not merely as a territory, but stretched out more, like peripheries we have been talking about, due to mobility or movements or to another parishes, or maybe, as you said, the young people find themselves very
Digital
much
culture.
on the internet. So what are some of the new elements of a parish, if you focus?
Very good, very good.
And also maybe I can go ahead with, like, can you explain to us how the church is present in the virtual continent?
Yes. I'll start with where you started. According to canon law, the code of canon law that is that is in existence at the moment, a parish is defined as a geographical area. A geographical area in which Father Gregor is the parish priest. A geographical area where Father Joseph is the parish priest. Geographical areas. But, as you suggested, Sanjay, very correctly, and I think Instrumentum Laboris talks about it, today there are vast and massive migrations. Filipinos coming from Asia to different places, Poles going to America, Poles going to other parts, coming here in Italy, Sri Lankans going from here to there, Indians, a lot of movements. So I can't say, actually originally I belonged to a parish in Sri Lanka, Kandane. Now do I still belong to that? Of course, in a way, strictly speaking, that geographical area. But given my movements, given the demands of my vocation, given the demands of certain people who are working in some place, can we still talk about a geographical area? This was a very important issue. Added to that, don't forget, today the world is globalized. It's a globalized world. Though as long ago they were saying, and it has become true, the world has become a global village. Can we talk about geographical, small little geographical areas? Of course they are necessary. It's not a question of, Sanjay, it's not a question of denying the geographical area. That's the bare minimum. But we have to keep in mind, as Archbishop John Wilson, who was in my group, he used a nice word. He said we should not forget the factors that encourage fluidity. Fluidity is, how fluid flows. The parish boundary keeps on shifting, not geographically, in other areas. And also, Sanjay, let's not forget, church is not a physical area. According to Second Vatican Council, church is the people of God. It's a people. So where people are meeting in that charismatic group, in the focolare group, and in the parish church, that's the main center. Are they not the people of God? Are they not the church? So can you limit only to the geographical area? So this was one of the things that was discussed very seriously.
And also, as the second part, as I was talking about, people in the virtual world.
Yeah.
That also.
Yeah.
That was another.
In fact, many bishops and lay people who are present there, they were continuously saying, don't forget our youth, because youth are the future of the church. Youth are very important part of the church. But today's youth are mostly involved in digital way of living. You said internet, and there are so many other things. I'm quite old. I don't know about all the ramifications of digital world. But they mentioned, the Synod Assembly mentioned very often about artificial intelligence, how the church should adjust in such a situation. Because I think, if you permit me, I can use Cardinal Tagle, our Asian cardinal. He made an intervention very interesting. He said, once he asked in a parish about the orario, or the timetable of Sunday Mass, because the parish priest was saying the youth don't come here, this, that. And the masses were morning 6:30, 8, 9, 11 or whatever, evening 6:30, Sunday. But Cardinal Tagle said when he found out that most of the youth get up on Sunday at about 11:30, 12, so they cannot be expected in the traditional Mass time. So we also have to adjust according to, and the example I am taking here is, Cardinal Tagle went on to say, don't forget, they are involved in, at that time, with watching a movie, looking at some digital things. Of course, church has to challenge them how to do them properly. But it is their culture today. We also have to adjust. So Tagle's rhetorical question was, why can't we have a Mass at about 8:30 in the evening, 7:30 in the evening? We also have to adjust. So I just brought it in to show this important factor of digital culture is also an important challenge to geographically defined local church.
That's true, Father. And also we know that the Synod listens to the people who have chosen to be where they are.
Yeah.
So for us Christians, or as Catholics, we can say the life of witness is very vital to our faith in Jesus.
Yes.
So in this sense, what do we need to do, or how can we be Christ's witnesses in these different or new spaces?
It is, I can answer in one line, but I will take time because it's a very deep question. How? Our world is diverse. The way I as an Asian, you as an Asian, we would bear witness to the gospel of Jesus Christ in India, in Sri Lanka or elsewhere could be very different from the way someone in Latin America would be bearing witness to Jesus. But the important thing is, culturally, though you are conditioned culturally, you have to bear witness to your peoples. I can't bear, of course, if need arises, I should bear witness to others also. But mainly to that little world of mine, I have to be a living light in the light of the gospel. But your question was how? I would try to concentrate, because I can't, we don't have enough time, only about Asia as an example. As you know, in Asia, we, the Christians, are only 3%, not even 3 now. Christians, not Catholics, all Christians put together. 97% of people are not Christian. I mean, they don't belong to Christian religion. So what are we to say? That all of them will go to hell? That they have no salvation? No, not that. Instead, the Church, Vatican II, then Paul VI, and mostly John Paul II, Benedict XVI, now Francis, they are teaching that we need to live in dialogue with such people, inter-religious dialogue. You know how important it is in India.
That's true for
it's
us.
extremely important in my country, Sri Lanka also. In Asia, and today, it will be too naive to say Asia alone. The whole world is needing inter-religious dialogue. Because here in Italy, in Rome also, how many people, migrants of different religions are living? So inter-religious dialogue will be one good example. For example, Sanjay, there was a time, I remember when I was a young boy in Sri Lanka, some of our parish priests saying, young people, if you are male, you should marry only a Catholic. A young girl, you should marry only a Catholic boy. I think that's still valid. I would encourage, because that's better. But love doesn't have any categorization. If I fall in love with a girl, let's say I'm a young boy, I won't first check whether she's Hindu, Muslim, those things will come afterwards. But I know mixed marriages are normally discouraged in the church, normally. But after the Second Vatican Council, there is a lot of opening. For the simple reason, many mixed marriages have worked very well. Of course, similarly, many mixed marriages have not worked well. So, that's one example where interreligious dialogue can bear witness. Sometimes, it's my experience as a Redemptorist missionary in Sri Lanka. Before I came for studies here, I was there for 4 years doing mission preaching. In one place, I remember, the wife was Buddhist, husband was Catholic. But the Catholic husband was a drunkard, not interested in the 3 children. It's the Buddhist wife who was bringing the three children to the parish priest and asking every time when they were of proper age for First Holy Communion, for confirmation, the Buddhist woman. So there is, and in Asia, I finish with this, in Asia, interreligious dialogue is not speculative theology. We live it. Day to day we live. My Muslim neighbor, my Hindu neighbor, we are living with them. So I have to bear witness.
Yeah, from the childhood you are growing with them.
You are growing with
with them. So
that's the point.
The interaction.
So we have to live with them. And
That's true.
how is that interaction? Is it witness bearing? That's the issue.
So today also we, as Universal Church, we celebrate the Mission Sunday.
Yeah.
So in this line, Agencia Fides, that part of the pontifical missionary works since 1927, which is at the service of the church in mission, published Catholic Church statistics of this year 2024, which reveals a decrease of the Catholic population in the Europe.
Yes, I saw that.
How do you see the situation in declining of the Catholic population? What are your reactions?
That's a good question. I think synodality will be a very good response to that. But to come to your question directly, you are asking about the decline in Europe. Dear Sanjay, I too have followed these statistics for now nearly 20 years. And it's not just something new that they discovered in 2024 statistics of Agencia Fides. It has been a gradual decline. Even Pope John Paul II was very upset about it. Benedict XVI was upset. And we should be upset because it is in Europe the Christian church lived for a very long time and it was shaped here. But I would like to see a positive side also, while trying to see something to be done to stem the tide, so to say, to check this. First of all, I would like to draw attention, Sanjay, to a very nice statement made by the German theologian long ago. I was probably in school, just after the Second Vatican Council, Karl Rahner. Karl Rahner said, after having seen the Second Vatican Council, where he was a great theologian, he said, I can say now the center of the church is shifting towards the southern hemisphere. Because for the first time at the Vatican II, not only European and American bishops were there were bishops from Africa, Asia and all. So slowly it was shifting, and it has, Karl Rahner died long ago. Karl Rahner said it 60 years ago. But today, after 60 years, we see how much it is shifting and how much it has shifted. We have a pope from the southern hemisphere. Sanjay, your question was statistics and this decline. Why not we look also at the increase? The same statistics say there's an increase in Christians, number of Christians in Asia, Africa. So this is something which we alone cannot control. God's Spirit has to. But your question is still valid, because we have to ask, why is the Christian population declining here in Europe? I don't have a perfect theory. I don't have a perfect answer. But with my little research, with my little reading, with my little knowledge, I dare to say it's mainly because the church here has been too stubborn, too obstinate to think that they have the truth and no dialogue is needed. Everything secular is wrong. That is secular. This is secular. Don't look at them. We know, and they have to look at us and learn. I think that is one of the reasons, if not the main reason, for the church has been closed. When in late 1960s, I'm told, I was not even a seminarian, I was still in the school, very small boy. I was told, and I have read, when there were protests, when there were certain things to be changed in the church according to Second Vatican Council, what did the church say, especially here in Europe? No, these are secular movements. We don't want them. So that lack of dialogue, the lack of reading the signs of the times. Vatican II read it, because Vatican II was not a European council. It was a worldwide Catholic council. There, the rest of them, and of course, many European bishops and theologians took a leading role. There were excellent European bishops from Belgium, Germany, and other places. And these people contributed a lot. But how much of Vatican II reforms, dear Sanjay, has come into life here in the church? So if it is not there, can't help. Another point, in order to move, you can move to another question later. Rome is the center of Christianity at the moment. Why? Because the successors of St. Peter, Peter himself, Jesus appointed Peter as the vicar of his vicar. So Rome traditionally in the Catholic faith is the center of Catholicity, of Christianity. And successors of St. Peter have been living here. This is the 268th successor or 69th, I can't remember. So, but let's keep in mind, Rome also has to listen to the local churches. I'll come to that later probably, because your question was not that. And Rome has to learn, not only Rome, Europe has to learn, looking at Asia, looking at Africa. Why are they growing?
That's true.
And why are we not growing? Sanjay, can I take a minute more?
Surely, there is time here.
I am very upset. Once I was going for a walk here near the Colosseum long ago, early morning, to celebrate a mass at a certain place. When I was going, there was a troop of novices, female novices long ago, all Filipinos, and one Italian nun, probably novice mistress, leading them to the church. And today I see the same with regard to so many Indian novices, seminarians, Latin America, American seminarians and novices, who are brought from those countries, because there are so many vocations. They are brought here and they are trying to increase the number. Because here there are very few vocations now. And the way things are going, not only Agencia Fides, some other good sociological surveys have shown the draft is going like this. So instead of addressing why it is happening, and instead of learning from the places like Africa and Asia why it is growing, if you are trying to do artificial, that's the word, do artificially keep the numbers, that will not work. I'm sorry to say that. It's uprooting a young girl from Kerala, a young girl from Philippines, a young girl from Bolivia, and bring here and plant them. Of course, you might say, dear readers, dear listeners, you might say, but Father, did not the missionaries from Europe came and gave us faith? Isn't it not our duty now to go there? It is. It is. But I'm talking something else. When Europeans came, they came to a place where there were no Christians. When our people are brought here, now, when they are brought, they are bringing to a place where Christianity has become something useless. And you are just keeping. And sometimes congregations, religious congregations. I don't want to be judgmental, please don't misunderstand me, but I have to speak the truth. Sometimes congregations use this restructuring, reconfiguring. I'm not talking about redemptorists, I'm talking about restructuring, reconfiguration is needed. It is needed. Because if we have committed in profession, in congregations, to serve the congregation, we should be able to go here where there the need is. But sometimes there are facades behind which we see it is just to keep the numbers. Certain provinces, certain areas are dying. We go and bring them. And there's a very dangerous thing. I said it at the synod and many agreed in our group. Most of our third world countries in Asia, Africa, I don't know about Latin America, there are many vocations and most of them would love to come to the first world because it's very nice, no, in Europe, America. So is it for Christ they are coming or is it for a better life? Whereas missionaries from here went to Asia, Africa those days, like your Levans, no? Constance Levans. They sacrificed and they lived terrible lives there. Whereas these people come very often, I can't judge their motives, apparently for this. So to keep numbers, you should not do artificial things. That's right. Instead, you should be synodal, listening to Asia, listening to Africa, and learning and correcting some of the ways you have been.
If I go ahead, the synod in Rome has completed its third week, and which focused on governance and delegation of authority in the church, which we touched a little bit also last time. What are some of the takeaways of this third week when we talk about governance and delegation.
One of the main takeaways, Sanjay, will be the parish thing,
Yeah.
which I really liked. That parish is larger than geographical territory. Parish is a group of persons. But more than that, more controversial, or rather, I won't say controversial, more that attracted attention of many because there were different opinions, was whether there should be some authority given to local episcopal conferences. The Bishops' Conference in India, the Bishops' Conference in the United States, the Bishops' Conference in Sri Lanka. Should they not be given? Not given. Don't they have? Should it not be recognized? Nobody can give. Only Holy Spirit can give. Should they not have their God-given authority, the bishops, successors of apostles, to teach in their context? Or should they only repeat what Rome says? And let's not forget, Sanjay, Jesus gave the power to teach not only to Peter, but to all the apostles. Peter and the apostles. Peter was the head. He was the head. But to Peter and to all the apostles. What does that mean today? Peter's successor is the Bishop of Rome, Pope. So that authority comes to the Pope and the rest of the bishops who are successors of other apostles. So they are in a college, they are in communion. As long as Peter, that is present day Bishop of Rome, Francis, he is in communion with the rest of the bishops, and the bishops are communion with him and one another, then they should be given to adjust and teach. And I know there are some who are very worried this will create relativism. This will create contradictory teachings. Now this is where we Catholics should be proud. Why? Because we have a unity of faith. Rome, always, thanks to, I am very proud of being a Roman Catholic. Of course, I would like to be called Sri Lankan Catholic than Roman, but to be a Catholic mainly because we have a unity of faith. Long ago, Sanjay, St. Ignatius of Antioch, today, just 3 days ago, we celebrated his feast, 17th of October. St. Ignatius of Antioch was the one who said, Rome, the church in Rome, presides over other churches in charity. In charity. That is, in promoting what Jesus taught. In keeping our faith. Rome has a very important role, thanks to the Holy Spirit. But that role should not substitute itself to, with itself, the teaching authority of local churches. Because Pope Paul VI, who is also a saint, today Paul VI, great Archbishop Cardinal Montini from Milan, he said long ago in his in his Octagesima Adveniens, number 4, he said something nice. He said, don't expect me, the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, to give teachings that will fit in Papua New Guinea. He didn't use that word, I'm saying. In number 4 of Octagesima Adveniens, he says, as Bishop of Rome, I can't give teachings that will fit into all the contexts of the world. We are talking about places.
Yeah.
What does the Pope know about India? What does he know about Bihar? What does he know about Mahayangane in Sri Lanka? What does the Pope know about some remote area somewhere else? So that's where our local bishops should have some authority, and they do have. Whether that authority is recognized is the issue in teaching, because as if they have validly been ordained, they have the authority. Whether that authority is recognized by the Catholic Church is the issue.
Also, throughout the discussions, the unity in diversity comes out very clearly. And Father, just as we move on, in one of the recent interviews, Archbishop Anthony Fisher and our Dominican Order of Preachers, Archbishop of Sydney, says faith cannot be reinvented. We need to have same faith, same moral church order, and same liturgy. Your comments, please.
Yeah, very good. You are quite well read. You know what was said and what was not said. I would fully agree with Archbishop Anthony Fisher. Faith cannot be reinvented. But my point is, nobody said that faith has to be reinvented. Everybody is saying, beginning with the Bishop of Rome and many synod members, that faith should be reread in our new contexts. It's not reinventing. But there are people, and also, I don't know, Sanjay, Archbishop Fisher is a very nice man, I can tell you with my experience, not only at the two synods, also when we were doing synodal preparations, I came to know him. Very nice man. But it's not against him that I am saying something. I don't understand why the media is reporting only things that Archbishop Fisher says, or there's another Bishop Barron, he says, or some other, or Cardinal Mueller. These people are all church personalities. They are in the synod. Very nice people, very simple, nice people. But why is the media reporting only what they say? I don't understand. There are many other things said by a vast majority of bishops and cardinals and lay people. They are not given prominence. Often media, I know you are a media man, but without insulting you, often media people love to report things that go against what the Bishop of Rome says. Very often. And do they report what Francis says like that? I don't know. So that's just a comment. But your question was, faith cannot be reinvented, but faith should be reread. I got this from Gaudium et Spes number 4. This Gaudium et Spes. It says, in every age, the Church carries the responsibility of reading the signs of the times and of interpreting them in the light of the gospel. So in every age, and our Father Herring also was involved in writing this, Gaudium et Spes, not because Herring said it, but this is the church teaching. So Gaudium et Spes says we have to read the signs of the times in different contexts and reinterpret our faith. So there's a difference, dear Sanjay, between reinventing and reinterpreting. So many of us at the Synod are saying that should be reinterpreted, because what the church was saying in the 6th century, let's say, that's about 14 centuries ago, you can't say the same thing today. So many things have happened. We need to reread the signs of the times. It is here that I also want to, I think I jotted down, that is about, I think you said it also here. Unity in faith, unity and diversity. I think Archbishop Fisher is a very learned man, and he has that man. He is a very good guardian of faith, so he is saying that. That's his view. In the synod, we should have people who have different views. That's the beauty of synodal way, It's not only those who are having the views of Pope Francis, not only those who are having my views or your views. Everybody should be there. That's walking together. So Archbishop Fisher's ideas are to be welcomed, but they need to be discussed and discerned. I don't understand some concerns expressed there in the Synod Hall and outside during when we take coffee and some refreshments. Not only bishops, some lay people, they are saying, Father, now what will happen to our faith if you allow different churches to reinterpret? But are they not the bishops and the people of God in those churches? Church in Sri Lanka? Should they repeat what Rome says? Of course, unity of faith is a must, obligatory. That's kept by Rome, thanks to Rome. There's no questioning. But unity not as uniformity, unity as unity in diversity. I want to make a comment here. I know, without mentioning names, it's not fair to mention names, there are some bishops and archbishops and cardinals who think Mass is valid, Eucharist is valid only if it is celebrated in Latin. My question is it contextualizing? But more than that, could I ask an ad hoc question? The first Mass, on that first Maundy Thursday, did Jesus celebrate it in Latin? Apostles didn't know Latin. We wonder whether Jesus ever spoke Latin. I can understand sentimental liking. Now, I love some of the Latin singing. Gloria, Sanctus, these are beautiful.
Yes.
No other language can catch it. Probably they can, but for me, I like it. But I can't say that's the only valid one. That may be valid for those who can understand and those who can be in it. But otherwise, as Vatican II taught us clearly, we should have in a language that is understood by our by all our faithful believers. That's one. Number two is, some people say we should do things as Rome does. For example, I don't know whether I should say that. Some people think this is the way it is done in Rome. I won't take the example I wanted to, but just I say in generally. So we should do the same as in Rome. That's not unity of faith. Unity of faith is unity in diversity, not in uniformity. That's all I want to say. I don't know whether I answered your question.
Even with regard to our celebrations, mass celebrations also, sometimes some places I hear they have decision policies and all, and they will quote like saying they don't use the drums, so they should not also use in some of the parts of the masses, like, no?
Drums should not
Yeah.
be.
So it is like when we talk about inculturation and all that, and sometimes we just try to just impose things.
I saw one of the African bishops showed me a little clip of the African Mass. And do you know, when during the offertory, and there were 3 or 4 bishops concelebrating and priests, all of them were dancing with the rhythm of the music. That is their culture. And imagine here in Rome, if a priest celebrates Mass dancing, people will stone him. I don't know. And in Sri Lanka or India, we have our own customs. That's why inculturation is so important, just as interreligious dialogue.
We can go on discussion.
Yeah, we better.
But Father, just to, as one of the theological advisors to the synod, and as you have 30 years of experience in teaching, how do you see the overall impact of moral theology shaping the fundamental areas of church teaching and practice?
Yeah, I think there's a little correction. I have been teaching moral theology for nearly 30 years. This is the 29th.
Okay.
Next day it's 30 years. So no problem, only a few years, few months more. Thank you for asking that question and giving me a good platform to talk about it. And I appreciate it. I see moral theological things shaping this synod in a very, very special way. First of all, dear listeners, you have heard me saying and others saying, this synod does not have any particular theme. Instead, the only theme, the Pope repeatedly says it, is to promote a way of synodal living, a synodal way of living. To promote, foster a culture of synodality. What is it? Listening, respecting one another, avoiding clericalism. Many priests are clerical. I am a priest, you are a priest. Clericalism to be avoided. These are moral issues. Being accountable, co-responsibility, transparency, not to abuse. People, when they talk about abuse today of priests, they say sexual abuse. That's a problem. Or some others say financial abuse. Yes, that's a problem. But there's another abuse. Abuse of the consciences of the lay faithful. Sometimes just because I am a Catholic priest, I use the pulpit to destroy the dignity of the conscience of people. You all are, we have only, as Pope Francis says in Amoris Laetitia, that's a moral theological concept, pastors have a duty and obligation to form the consciences of the people, not to substitute them, not to replace them. So, in that also, I feel I have done a lot, and more than me doing, moral theology has done a lot to that. But if I ask you, what is moral theology? When I was asked to go for studies, to come here to Rome for moral theology, my friends, not only confreres, other former, before I joined the seminary, they said, moral theology? That's only to say this is wrong, that is right, this is to talk about law, you are going for that, you should have gone for something. I said no. As I studied, my convictions were confirmed. It's not to say this is wrong, this is a sin, that is not a sin. Moral theology, today many theologians would agree, is to promote a way of living according to the gospel. A way of living. So synodality has a very close link with moral theology, because it is to promote a way of living that is synodal. Moral theology is also to promote a way of living that is gospel bound. I want to say something, listening. Our founder, St. Alphonsus, who is the patron of moral theology, was one of the best listeners among saints. There may have been other saints, but without denying that fact, I can say he listened to reality. Take, for example, when he went to Scala, when he saw those shepherds without any pastor, he listened. Listening is not only literal listening. He was sensitive to the signs, listening. And he promoted in all his writings listening to the poor, listening to the most abandoned. What is the motto of our congregation? In him there is plentiful redemption for everybody. So that is also contributing to the synod. That is moral theology. A moral theologian is not a good moral theologian if he is not a good listener to reality. And synodal way is promoting that. So that is also there. I can go on, but I will stop because I think...
Nice to know your achievements and your progress in this line. And also as Alphonsian Academy, we just celebrated 75 years anniversary, and still. And how do you see when you teach students in the university here, and your interactions and all that? So your achievements and maybe developments that you see today.
As a result of Alphonsianum, you mean, and what it does.
Yes.
Thank you. Again, a very good question, because we don't talk these things. I would reckon that I am what I am as a moral theologian thanks to the Redemptorists. First of all, it's they who sent me for studies. First of all, it is they who sponsored and did everything. And from the seminary days, I got an excellent formation thanks to late Father Clement Campos of India, your province, a moral theologian. They gave me a taste for moral theology. But here in the Alphonsian Academy, I got really a very good formation, and I am thankful, because that time there were so many good professors. I don't want to mention names lest others may be hurt, but they were really, although academics, they had a sense of being pastoral. So I would say your question was about Alphonsian Academy, which is completed just 75 years. This is not just a Redemptorist charism, it's a continuation of our founder, St. Alphonsus Maria de Ligori. Many people think only if you are a parish priest or only if you preach missions, we are continuing the charism of Alphonsus. But they forget, Alphonsus is known mainly as a moral theologian and a pastor. And what is the title given to him? He is the patron of moral theologians and confessors. So I would say Alphonsian Academy has given that injection of being pastoral, good pastors, to be good pastors, not only to me, to hundreds, thousands of people from all over the world. And that's the beauty of this academy. So many are coming, and every time I used to meet Pope John Paul II, I had about 8-9 times of meeting him. Every time he sees me and someone would say, he's from Sri Lanka, he's in the Alphonsian. Oh, Alfonsiana. He was quite old by. Alfonsiana. Sant'Alfonso, dovete continuare nelle sue orme in pastoralità. He was admiring. So many popes, even this pope. I want to say something. Last year, suddenly an African bishop, last year during the synod, came to me and asked me whether I knew him. I said, I can't remember you. Then he said, Father, I am your student. I said, no. So I checked his tag. He was on Bismana from Rwanda, George Bismana. I said, oh yes, I remember. Oh, you have changed a lot. No, Father, I just this. And believe me, normally I have a good memory. This time also, he came and asked me, how are you, Father? I said, you are Bishop? He said, why, Father, I told you last time. So he's a product of Alphonsian, and one of my students. I was very proud. Then there are so many cardinals here who are products of Alphonsianum in the synod. Cardinal Coco Palmerio, the head of interpreting canonical texts earlier. Now he is retired. Then Cardinal, at the moment he's a big shot, Cardinal from Zaire, Ombongo. He came and told me, I studied at Alphonsium. So many bishops and archbishops. There's one archbishop from Sadok. I'm sure he will be listening because he told me he saw the earlier ones also. Archbishop John Wilson from England, Sadok. He has been studying here. So there are, Alphonsianum has done a lot of service. But dear Sanjay, with all due respect to all of us, I'm also still teaching. We have to rethink how pastoral we are at the Alphonsianum. It's not a question of, there are so many other places, no? What is the place? Santa Croce you studied?
Here, University of Santa Croce.
Then there is a faculty in Gregoriana. Then a few other places where they teach moral theology. Why should we have this when there are so many other places? And then Giovanni Paolo II. So many in Rome. Why should we have this? And spend so much of money and so much of personnel for that? Because ours is very different. It's supposed to be different in being pastoral. But the question is, how pastoral are we in our teaching? Because I'm worried at times. Some of us seem to be slowly drifting away without reducing any respect for us. We are still very pastoral, but we need to rethink whether we are really walking along the footsteps of St. Alphonsus.
Thank you very much, Father Vimal, for enlightening us and also our viewers. And we request our viewers, if you have any comments, could you write in our comments box in Scala News.
One last thing, sorry for interrupting. Please, dear viewers, pray. Prayer can do many wonders. This coming week, starting from tomorrow, is very crucial. We will be voting for propositions that will be handed over to the Pope. So please pray. Yeah.
As we conclude our sharing and discussions, and thank you for having you, Father, in the studio here.
You're
and
welcome.
Wish you all the best for the next
Thank you. You're welcome.
last week.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.